microphone. So the last one I did, one of the candidates did not turn on the mic before she started her introduction. So to turn these on, I think we just leave them on. So these both buttons have to be held down. So it's a little tricky. So I just say, if you leave them here, maybe set them down like this, so you're not right in front of them. You should be okay. Yeah. The pattern on them is like this. So they won't come out.
Good luck.
I think we're good, right?
Hello, hello.
Yeah. You know what I know. Okay. Oh, exactly.
You don't have a shepherd's hook.
Finish the thought. Finish the thought. Yeah, there's no shepherd's hook.
Yeah, no one's gonna honk us, yeah.
Thank you.
Some ways about some people to do that. Yeah.
You're still on the village board too, aren't you? Is that up this time? Okay, so I'll let Breach up to run for other offices.
Well, in a way, I mean, I was worried. I was like, if I could press a couple of yeah, I mean, you don't want to go to a lot of things. Full cycle. So, yeah, I think
I see you guys are competing for general.
it is, yeah.
He's going to be missed. He's really an institution. In fact, when I was elected 2 years ago, I asked, I don't know if you remember, Amanda Chu, that was on the board, she got beat by Andy Nicholson. I said, who's the one person that knows the most about what goes on the board? Well, you got to do it. Rick Shadow. He's going to be missed.
Yeah, yeah, it will be. Circle.
Oh, at school?
Okay, fair.
I thought he was retired. Is he still full-time? Oh, he does.
All right, are you ready? Okay, well, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us for the League of Women Voters Brown County Board Candidate Forum. We have two districts with us today. We have District 5 and District 24. I'm Dawn Smith. I am the Vice President of the Greater Green Bay League of Women Voters, and I am also the Co-Chair of Voter Services. Jean Marsh will be moderating for us today, and we will go until approximately 2 o'clock based on the number of questions we have. So thank you. Jean?
Thank you, Dawn, and welcome to our candidates for the Districts 5 and District 24 of the Brown County Board. Our candidates for District 5 are Dan Thino and Gloria Jane Eastman, and for District 24, Ross Teller and Vina Kepke. Thank you for taking time to attend this forum and to become informed about this important election. First, a brief word about the League. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization encouraging the informed and active participation of citizens in government. It influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League never supports or opposes any political party or candidate. League members will review questions or may have sent them to me in advance so that I can present them to the candidates. Similar questions could be consolidated so that we can address as many issues as possible. Questions that are addressed to only one candidate or questions that state a particular point of view that are not related to this office will not be asked. The timekeepers for the forum are League members Jean and Don Dahlstrom. Prior to the start of the forum, we decided not to have a predetermined number. The candidates agreed that they would take the questions in line of how they are seated. The forum will run for 1.5 hours, and we will begin with a 2-minute opening statement, and I will begin with Ms. Eastman. Your 2-minute opening, please.
Opening, I apologize. Hello, my name is Gloria Eastman. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I am a non-binary candidate running in Brown County Board of Supervisors District 5. If you don't know where that is, it's kind of behind the University Festival, heading out towards Preble. In my district, there's a whole lot of renters. There are a whole lot of folks that are marginalized populations, and I believe that as a non-binary person, as an LGBTQ person, I know what it's like to be discriminated against or to have government set up in a way that simply isn't built for the life and family structures that we live. So I want to be an advocate on the county board for marginalized people. I believe in equity. I believe in access and accessibility that works for the kind of people that are working and living in my district. I want to protect social services. I want to push for green initiatives. I personally drive an electric car. It is 8 years old, and it is doing just fine in these cold Wisconsin winters. And I really believe that there are a lot of things that we can do to protect our environment for a better future for Brown County. I want to fight for renter-friendly housing policies. I want to make sure that we are doing everything we can at the county level to help even that playing field between renters and landlords. Because right now, landlords certainly do have quite a bit of power imbalance over our renters. So I really want to advocate for those things. I want to make sure that we are doing everything that we can to build a more equitable future for all of Brown County.
Thank you. Mr. Thino?
Well, thank you, Jean. First of all, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for having these forums. I am a member of the League, a very proud member. I think it's a great organization to protect our democracy and advance the cause of everyone having an opportunity to vote. So I'm here as a member, but also as a candidate. A little bit about my background. I grew up in a working class family in a small town in northern Wisconsin. At age 25, I became the second youngest person in Wisconsin history to be elected to the Wisconsin State Senate. I got reelected to that office 3 times, representing the 8 northernmost counties of Wisconsin. That was followed by 2 terms as mayor of my hometown of Ashland. I then proceeded to go down to Madison, run 2 state agencies, and then ended up here in Green Bay working for the Fort Howard Corporation before that company was merged. Fast forward to a few years ago when I retired, bought a little house on the east side of Green Bay. I'm very active in community betterment projects. I was the past president of the Oak Grove Neighborhood Association, the chairman of the Green Bay Neighborhood Organization, which is the umbrella organization of all 40-some neighborhoods in the city of Green Bay. I'm on the board of directors of the Brown County Historical Society. I'm a member of the Human Services Board for the county, as well as, of course, being in my first term on the Brown County Board of Supervisors. I was encouraged to run by people of all stripes, and I'm proud to say that I accomplished a lot in my first term, and I look forward to an opportunity to continue that success. Thank you.
Mr. Teller? Yes, good.
Hi, my name is Ross Tellner. I'm a father, a husband, and a teacher. I have two wonderful kids, 5 and 2 years old, Raylan and Grayson. I have a wife of 8 years, Julie. So they're kind of the reason why I decided in the long run to be able to do this is I want to be able to continue to build a better future for Brown County. I've lived in Brown County my entire life, so all 35 years. Went to West Superior High School. I've graduated with both a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. I teach at Bayport High School. I'm a business teacher. And I've done that for 13 years, and I love every second of it. Part of that was when I first started teaching, Rick Shadwald, who is the person that is our district supervisor in 24, him and I became very close, and we became close friends. And I started to have interest in running for something. And he said, well, if you wait, when I retire, I'd love to have you take over for me. So he is planning to retire this year, unfortunately for the board, because he's been on it for 44 years. He has a lot of experience, but when he decided to do that, he kind of passed the torch to me. Part of my campaign is I'm looking at 3 major portions. Right now, Brown County is at tax levy, meaning we can't tax people any more than what they already are, unless your income or your property tax goes up or something like that. We're not able to tax you anymore. So we have to find proper ways to be able to spend and be able to continue to give people what the facilities and the things that they need. I believe in mental health. I believe that what we can do is if we put a little bit more money into mental health, it might be able to save, or it will save us time on things like crime, abuse, and homelessness. As we continue to go on, like I said, I want to be able to build on the future. I want my kids to be able to stay in Brown County, so I want to be able to see a great way for them to be able to do so.
Mr. Kepke?
Well, thank you to the League of Women's Voters for hosting this event. Thank you to Ross for being here as well, and my lovely wife, Callie. Appreciate your support as always. If you would have told me 21 years ago that I'd be up here contending for a race to represent nearly 10,000 people, I wouldn't have believed you. Because 21 years ago, I was in a Russian orphanage. I grew up in the streets of Russia, not having much, asking for food at times, seeing my mom pass away at the age of 3, and seeing my dad, who had post-traumatic stress disorder from the Russian Navy, and how he turned to alcohol and substance abuse to escape from those challenges. But here we are 21 years later. I am honored to be a trustee in the village of Hobart over the past 2 years, running unopposed this year. Very proud of the record that we have done together. No one person does things to make them better, but what we've done together in the village of Hobart. And I want to take that momentum of the second highest net new construction growth. I want to take the momentum of the 3rd lowest tax rate in all of Brown County to the Brown County. So with those things said, I would like to work on the opioid crisis. We have some great individuals who have started some great progress in this area, but the opioid crisis is a challenge. And as it impacted my dad in a different way in Russia, it's impacting people here in Brown County. It's close to my heart. We got to address it. Not just talk about it, but I believe we can address it and ultimately fix it. I want to make sure we are also fiscally responsible. Like I said, in Hobart, we froze our tax rate at $3.86 this year. We're helping people out in the middle of inflation. And for me, in the end of it all, it's about listening, being a good representative of everybody's voices and everybody's needs, and making sure we're growing a community of belonging in Hobart and Brown County together.
Thank you. We will start the question and answer part of the forum. And our first question will be directed to Mr. Thino. How would you address the issue of creating more affordable housing in our county?
affordable housing is a big issue. The county is less involved in that particular issue than the city of Green Bay and the other municipalities. It is generally the municipalities that have the authority to zone, to determine developer approvals, to do building inspections. All those sorts of things are things that are involved mainly with municipal government. I can say that we recently did something to help homeless veterans. The county board decided to provide property on the far east side of Green Bay to build tiny houses for temporary housing for homeless veterans. We need to do something more than that, though. I think that we need to cooperate with the municipalities of Brown County to make sure that there's affordable housing. We keep hearing that there's a lot of market housing going in Brown County. Market housing, however, is not necessarily affordable housing. About 2 weeks after I was first elected 2 years ago to the Brown County Board, I took a tour of the St. John's shelter, and I was surprised to learn that nearly a quarter of those people actually get up in the morning and go to work, but they can't afford a home to live in.
Mr. Tallner?
Yeah, I'll kind of add on to what Mr. Thino just said. I work at the the St. John's Homeless Shelter. I'm a shift lead there, and as a part of that, I get the great opportunity to talk to the 100 men that are there every night. And a lot of the conversations that I have start with, well, unfortunately, why are you here? And most of them say, based upon a lot of mental health issues, but also then they add on that it's hard to afford the things that they need to. Down payments on apartments, being able to get a down payment on a home, all of those different types of things. I think for Brown County in general, just like Mr. Thino said, Brown County supervisors don't have a ton of the responsibility to be able to do that. That's on a lot of our villages like Hobart and Green Bay and Howard and things like that. But I think we can continue to advocate and we can continue to push to be able to help these people by continuing to give them better opportunities. This includes things like mental health, things like being able to find the best ways to be able to do things like keeping them out of the homeless shelters and finding better ways for them to be able to have good communications. I think of the Micah Center that is part of St. John's ministry and the amazing things that their caseworkers are able to do and able to help push through. And NewCap is another organization that helps with those things. So being able to help people find the resources is also a part of it. I think sometimes we think that we just look around and there's nothing there, and a lot of times it's that there's something there, but it's just really hard to find at this time.
Mr. Kepke?
Yes, affordable housing is definitely an important topic of conversation for Brown County. I think it begins with defining what is affordable. There is market rate, there is workplace, there is affordable. So nobody has truly defined those rates. Is that a house between 50 and 100,000, and 100,000 to 200,000 and up, right? We don't have those defined categories. But whether you're in a very difficult situation, borderline of what I was in Russia, and being homeless and being supported by some of our great organizations like St. John's Homeless Shelter, or you are just simply trying to make ends meet in this inflationary period and want to buy an affordable house, again, what is that defined as? For me, in those conversations at Spring Lake Church, where I volunteer and serve on their worship team, a lot of the individuals from St. John's Homeless Shelter come to our downtown campus, and I talk to them about, hey, here's the opportunities, here's the resources for you. But I also talk to people who are middle class, who simply want to figure out how can they make it in this challenging housing market. So for me, we are having those conversations in Hobart. We have the second highest net new construction growth. I had a great conversation with Michelle Stimpson from Lexington Homes, who are investing heavily into Hobart and surrounding communities. And we have some big, big developments in upwards of tens of millions of dollars that will be announced in the next coming months. So in Hobart, we are working on that, and at the county level, we can get this done.
Okay. Mix Eastman?
Yeah, so as a renter in Brown County, I have been a renter the majority of my adult life. I should say my entire adult life, I have been a renter. And what I can tell you is that, well, we don't have the ability to zone. We don't have the ability to do a lot of those other little things. And because of state level, we don't have the ability to put in like rent control because of state level legislature. What we can do though is we can make sure that people are qualifying for housing vouchers and that they actually have a place to put them. When I have spoken to people in my district, but all across Brown County, a lot of folks actually do qualify for housing assistance. Unfortunately, many landlords refuse to take it. There are also many landlords that refuse to take disability payments as a form of income, even though that is a guaranteed form of income every month. What we can do is we can do things to reward landlords for doing the right thing, which is accepting those housing vouchers. We also have the ability to create new options and new opportunities to make sure that people are able to use the services that they have been provided for and they have qualified for. It is important that we make sure that what we have going on is there. The last thing I'm going to quick squeeze in here is our evictions process. Unfortunately, our tenants are not represented in evictions processes, and we need to make sure that that happens.
For our next question, we'll start with Mr. Tallner, and that is, what do you feel are the biggest issues facing Brown County, and what would you do to address it?
Yeah, so I think the largest issue right now for us is kind of what I started with in our 2 minutes, is this idea of we're at tax levy. I've went to the last year of Brown County Supervisor Board meetings. I went to the meeting that was about the budget. I watch as these people that are on there, the 26 of them, strenuously look through, and Vanya's going to have the exact number of pages. It's like 350 pages of budget, and they try and find the best ways to be able to give everybody that they want. I went to a meeting this last month where the social workers of the Health and Human Services are looking for a raise. And while that's amazing, and I talk about mental health, it's we take that money and we give it to somebody, and then where do we get that money from? And how are we going to be able to take small slices of information, small amounts of money, and move it around? When they were doing the budget, one of the things that they were talking about was a print center. And the print center is a part of Brown County, and they were like, do we actually need this? Can we do something different? And for a lot of most of the conversation, it was, yeah, we don't actually need this. And then the person that was at the print center stood up and said what he did, and they're like, oh, maybe we can't get rid of this. So I want to be a part of this conversation, and I want to be able to do that. The other thing, like I said, was mental health, and I think mental health can go into a lot of different ways. When we talk about the opioid crisis, when we talk about drugs, when we talk about things like abuse and crime, it's all going to be a part of being able to help us with our mental health.
For sure. For me, the core topic that has been discussed in Brown County, and I continue to want to advocate for, is that of the opioid crisis. The Brown County does have a $387 million budget, so that board does have some great resources to address this issue. I was speaking to constituents, and I was in Howard knocking on doors, and I spoke to a lady who said her brother from Manitowoc lost everything, has been battling this for the last 7 years, and a 30 or 60 or 90-day outpatient clinic is not enough. And in fact, for her as well, as a high-functioning professional, opioids has been an issue as well, and I couldn't believe it. We're sitting in this beautiful home, it's clean, so it's impacting people of all ages, backgrounds, socioeconomic status. And so what I want to do is I want to work on those existing public and private partnerships, whether it's public groups or nonprofits, to give these individuals the mental health resources, but also the financial resources. Yes, I'm a fiscal conservative. Hobart has the third lowest tax rate in Brown County. But when you look at the $387 million budget, when it comes to people's livelihood, when it comes to mothers and fathers and kids who are struggling with this challenging epidemic. And as that lady told to me in Howard, picture your worst pain magnified by 100 times. That's what some of those relapse and some of those withdrawal symptoms are like. So when we have symptoms so challenging, so large, we got to use this large budget and allocate it accordingly to help those struggling with the opioid crisis.
I have you repeat the question again? I apologize.
Certainly. What do you feel are the biggest issues facing Brown County, and what would you do to address it?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that one of the biggest issues that we face in Brown County is an equity issue. I think for a long time, people of color, LGBTQ people, all sorts of people that live on the margins of society have been trying to make a place here for themselves. And I think that we can do a lot to assess how we do county services, how we do hiring, how we do all of those budgetary pieces to make sure that they are equitable, to make sure that when we are making decisions and that we are putting those decisions in a place where we are also able to create accessibility. There's a lot of issues where it is very difficult to access county services, especially if you work very difficult schedules. A lot of people in my district work 2 or 3 jobs, myself included. And I think that it's important that we realize that and that we create an ability to be accessible. Part of that would be getting county board and committee meetings all on YouTube so that they can be watched at any time, but also so that they can be live streamed and people can come and make a statement if they need to, email or call one of us. Those are important pieces. So I think that equity and access kind of boils everything else down to it. So that's where I would focus.
Thank you. That's a very important question. One of the issues that is not getting enough publicity, but is a huge issue in Brown County, is the backlog in our court system. There are currently, well, since 2020, there has been 4,500 criminal cases where charges were never brought. There are currently almost 3,000 cases in the district attorney's office that are open or are being prosecuted. The problem that we have with the backlog in the court system is that there are people on the streets of Brown County that should be in jail, and there are people in jail that are not getting justice and getting back to their families and their jobs. I am very, very concerned about this particular issue. It is one that is not getting enough attention, but one that needs to get attention. It's not an issue that Brown County by itself, the Board of Supervisors, or the county executive can solve. It has to be in conjunction with the state of Wisconsin. And we were down, a delegation of us were down talking to our legislators just a month and a half ago about this particular issue. We need more judges. We need more public defenders. We need more assistant district attorneys. All of those offices are paid for by the state, not the local taxpayers. So solving this very important issue has to be a partnership between the state and Brown County.
Our next question, we will start with Mr. Kepke, and that is, what would you do to address the issues around child care for all families in Brown County?
Absolutely. Child care is something that's talked about almost as much as affordable housing. And it's important because when one or both parents aren't able to fully invest into their career and job and provide for their family, it makes it challenging. So again, a big part of what the county does, it oversees the social services and has a responsibility from the state to oversee a lot of the social services. So while the county cannot do this issue alone, I believe between fiscal investment from the county and those public and private partnerships, we can provide those resources. I remember being at UW Green Bay when I was a student government president there, and back then we invested into part of the student fee to go towards a future child care center. And we started that back in 2013. It's 11 years forward. So whether it's at university level, private investors, the county funding, we can support these child care centers and provide these families the opportunity to succeed in their careers, to provide for their kids, and most importantly, make sure these kids are growing up in a safe environment. They're learning the right skills. They're learning things that matter. And again, it has to be a public and private partnership between the county and our partners.
Next would be Mick Zaisman.
Yeah, so childcare services are incredibly important. One of the only ways that the working class can be successful in their career, especially people assigned female at birth, parents that have given birth, those parents need access to childcare. One of the programs that we do have here in Brown County is childcare assistance. It is incredibly important. We have to protect that. In addition, we need to realize that we no longer live in a society where we can count on parents or grandparents of ourselves to be able to take care of our children. So a lot of times what happens is if a family happens to be lucky enough to have two parents, one parent often, with the way that people are being paid these days and how much childcare costs, one parent has to stay home even if they can't actually afford that because their entire paycheck would go to taking care of the childcare costs for that child. That doesn't work when that's going to cripple your career for the rest of your life, and it definitely doesn't work when you are a single parent. My mother died when I was young, and my father had to figure out how to take care of 3 children and do childcare. Unfortunately, we had a community around us that helped out, but not everybody has that privilege. And we need to make sure that childcare assistance stays put and that we have the ability to expand that if possible to make sure that people have what they need.
Well, as I mentioned before, one of my assignments is that of a member of the the Human Services Board of Brown County. There are 2 statutory boards that oversee the Department of Health and Human Services. One is the Board of Health and the other is the Human Services Board, which I am on. We do a substantial amount of work in the area of child care in this county, as well as helping people with disabilities, helping people that are marginalized, helping with food and nutrition and housing. ADRC, is a function of Brown County, which reaches out to many people that are in need. Through our Department of Health and Human Services, we have a budget of about $115 million. About $26 million of that comes from the property tax. The rest goes to programs to help families, children in need, and people that are caught in the judicial system and need assistance. So Brown County is doing substantial. Can we do more? Of course. In this current budget, we added 17 positions in the Division of Human Services to help meet the growing needs of people in our community.
As somebody with 2 kids in childcare, I'd like you guys to take a guess on how much I pay a week. $480 a week for 2 kids, a 5 and a 2-year-old. That is more when my child went from 1 year old to 2 years old, because unfortunately right now what's going on is we're getting less childcare facilities, we're getting less childcare workers, and people aren't finding these jobs and these places to be great places to work. And so we need to find ways to be able to give incentive to that. If that is by trying to reduce the property tax for these facilities, it might have to be. If that is being able to find ways to be able to promote this and give better opportunities to these people to be able to work in these areas, I think we should. It's not just it just costs a lot. It's there isn't enough people to do it. I mean, I have friends right now that are expecting to have a baby and they can't find a child care facility to be able to put them in. So we have to be able to find ways to be able to continue to increase the amount of them. When there's more supply, that means the price will hopefully be able to go down a little bit. But I also know that I would never change that for my life for my kids. My kids are, I think, extremely smart. That's just their dad talking. But I also would say that my kids are extremely smart because of the child care facility that they have. The people that are there that are teaching them, the people that are there every day working with them and giving them great opportunities. We need to continue to grow that and get great people to work there.
Mr. Kepke? I'm sorry. The next question will start with Ms. Eastman then. That's right. We'll start with you, Ms. Eastman. As a Brown County supervisor, would you encourage state legislators in this area to support Medicaid expansion for Wisconsin?
Yeah, so I actually, okay, does battery just die? I actually did participate in a press conference when Badger Care expansion hit the state floor with Christina Shelton. And I told my story of growing up somebody that was on Badger Care and then lost Badger Care. And I continued to injure myself over and over again, specifically with my knee, as I kept subluxing them. And what ended up happening is I wasn't able to get the treatment I needed, and then I ended up injuring myself in August of 22, had to go in for surgery. And the reality is even though I work a full-time job and have full-time insurance and all those other things, and I even work a pretty good job, I still don't actually have the ability to pay off that surgery that I needed. And Badger Care expansion and Badger Care public option would have helped me with that, because the reality is Badger Care would have been a better option for me than my employer health care. And so we need to make sure that we are taking care of people from the time that they are born through their adulthood and retirement with Badger Care, because people need access to health care, and I believe that it's a basic human right. I believe that access to health care is a basic human right and that nobody should be being sued for unpaid health expenses.
This is going to be one of the few things that she and I agree on. The problem is something that cannot be solved at the county level, however. This must be solved at the state legislative level. Governor Evers has promoted the expansion of Badger Care since he took office. The unfortunate thing is that the legislature is not hearing the needs of many people, particularly low-income people in the state of Wisconsin. The other thing that is part and parcel of this is that because we are not expanding the opportunities for Badger Care or Medicare, we are losing federal funds. We are losing millions of dollars of federal funds that could come to Wisconsin if we were to expand Badger Care to meet many of the needs that we have in the state of Wisconsin.
Mr. Schellner, yes.
I'm not going to continue to beat a dead horse. I agree. We do need to continue to increase the amount of Badger Care and Medicare that we have. I believe in the idea because of mental health. Because of the idea of being able to get these people the best possible ability to everything that they can. It's the idea that if we can continue to increase the amount of mental health and the amount of ability for people to be able to do things, it's going to be able to get them better jobs. It's going to be able to get them into employment. It's going to be able to get them so that they're able to do more things. And I think that that's just a basic human right. To be able to have a doctor be able to take a look at you is something that we all need to be able to have happen. And we shouldn't be saying, you can't do it because it's too expensive for you. And you shouldn't have the feeling of when you're home at sick and you feel like you're going to not be able to do something, you shouldn't have the feeling of, I can't do it because it's going to cost too much. So if we can make it so that we can be able to have people be able to go do the things that they need to be able to do to get better, to be able to have the positives, why not? It's a silly thing not to do.
Absolutely, I would agree with the rest of the people here. Healthcare is important. We have to look out for the people in our community and make sure that they can provide for their families, that they can succeed in their careers. And I would advocate for making sure that we have the funding from the state and ultimately the federal level at the county level to invest into healthcare here for our residents. But the trick is it has to be done fiscally responsibly as well. We have to prioritize this area as an important thing, and from there we can align our finances. So making sure that we do invest in this area, but we're aware of the financial impact for the other areas. And we also have to make sure there aren't strings attached. A lot of times you get the funding, but what are the attached strings? The sausage making process that happens in Washington and Madison. So to me, as long as the strings are basic rights of health care for all individuals, then we are okay. If there are these strings and the sausage making that makes the county or local governments do things that are just not core to who they are, then that doesn't make sense. And I think we can invest into that locally and prioritize more of our $387 million budget for healthcare in Brown County. But in all, I would agree with what's been said, that we should invest into healthcare for all in Brown County.
Thank you. Our next question, we will start with Mr. Thino, and that is, what do you see as the most pressing needs for infrastructure or capital projects in the county?
Well, we have a huge budget for capital improvement projects. One of the major ones coming down the pike is the southern bridge and the southern portion of Brown County going over the Fox River. We need to invest more in our facilities for energy conservation. We've been doing a pretty great job of trying to reduce our energy impact. In fact, because of the energy audits we are doing and improvements for the physical facilities of our county, in our county buildings, such as insulation, such as new mechanical systems and the like, we have reduced just last year over 450,000 pounds of greenhouse gas, CO2, going into the atmosphere just from our own county facilities. There's a lot we need to do with maintenance. I am a strong advocate for building maintenance, not necessarily just constantly building new buildings. If you have a leaky roof and you don't fix it, it's going to cost you more to repair the roof than you would if you took care of the problem in the first place. We have a number of facilities. We have our parks, we have our office buildings, we have our jail, a number of facilities that you'd be surprised at the number of square footage, but we're trying to do our best to maintain them and make sure that they're energy efficient.
Yes.
Yeah, I would continue to agree with Mr. Thino here on a lot of the different things. The Southern Bridge is something that I grew up in West De Pere. I remember when I got my driver's license 19 years ago, them talking about this bridge that was going to go on the southern side of, on the south side of Brown County and go over the river. And I dated a girl from East De Pere. Sorry, West De Pere people. But she lived on the road that it was going to go down, and her parents were very excited because they were going to have this bridge that made it so much easier for them to be able to do that. And it's taken 19 years to be able to finally come to fruition. I understand that that isn't all the board. There's a lot of different funding that has to go into that. There's a lot of different areas. But as we continue, I want to be able to push that and continue to move it forward. I think it's going to be a great thing for De Pere and all of Brown County. Some other of the smaller things, I was actually just having a conversation with somebody about the Resch Center. The Resch Center is a little over 20 years old, and the facility needs a little bit of an update. Some of the seats, some of the different things need to have some updates, and we need to be able to provide that and get that to be good. Energy conservation, just like Mr. Thino said, I think we need to continue to push that. I want to be able to continue to have my kids be able to live here, and to be able to do that, I want them to have a clean area and a clean space to live. And then the last one is the NAIR, which is the National Equestrian Research Center. It is a place that's going to be off of I'm sorry, I'm completely losing my train of thought, Renard Island. So it's going to be a great opportunity for us to be able to continue to move forward.
Ross, totally agree about the Resch Center. Those ugly purple railings have got to go. Even if you and I go in and paint them for free, we'll get it done. But I would say in Brown County, infrastructure is key. It's our roads, it's our bridges, it's our parks, it's our trails. I was proud to be at the ribbon cutting 2 years ago of the new VV overpass that's connecting Howard and Hobart. That was a partnership between the state, the county, the federal government, and the local governments. Hobart contributed $3 million. Howard put in $3 million. The county put in about $5 million, the state and the federal government. So we're connecting communities together. How else can we connect communities together? Through the trails, the Duck Creek Trail from Pamprin Park out to Oneida. We got to get that done. I've been on the Hobart board for 2 years now, and I've been advocating for the county to step in as a middle party to get it done. Hobart is saying, hey, We don't care whose land it is. We just want to protect the 30 property owners whose driveway crosses that trail. If we can protect them, make sure their access and their property value stays the same, we're good to go. And I think it should be a one-page document on a napkin to agree on, but we're digging through a long document in closed session that we got to get beyond. So just like we got the VV overpass done with various partners financially, let's get the Duck Creek Trail done, get the bikers, walkers, and healthy activity going on in Brown County. So roads, bridges, parks, and trails are definitely a priority for me, but should be for all of Brown County.
Yeah, for me, it comes back to equity and access. One of my important things is that while we are making these improvements and repairs to our existing facilities, that we do so with accessibility in mind. Last summer, after I did have that knee surgery, I did have to navigate Brown County, including county services, from a wheelchair. And it was really difficult. And so we can do things to make sure that those things are being done accessibly. I also want to, again, highlight the green initiatives that the other folks here today have talked about. I really do believe in a carbon neutral future for Brown County and for the county level services. There are so many things that we can do with our infrastructure to get us there. It is part of clean air. It is part of clean water. It is a part of clean energy. And we really can work in those three areas to make sure that Green Bay and that Brown County is a wonderful place to live for years and years to come. We know that these climate impacts impact people of color and lower economic status people first. So we have to make sure that when we are doing our social or green initiatives, that we are keeping those people and their equity in mind.
Our next question, we will start with Mr. Tallner, and that is, the homeless situation is challenging. The homeless shelter closes soon. What do you think we should be doing to address homelessness in Brown County?
Appreciate that I got this question first. As I stated, I work at St. John's Homeless Shelter, and you're 100% right. It closes on April 30th, and the conversations that I have with these gentlemen, these 100 gentlemen that are in there on average every night, no matter the weather. So if it gets really bad, it's much more, of course. But these guys, they need something more. They need to be able to have something additional. The Micah Center is a great opportunity. NEW Community Shelter is a great opportunity for them. But I think we need to be able to find new ways to be able to give them more. And I think that includes Health and Human Services at the Brown County level and having them have more communication, having them more opportunity to have communication with them. We need more of these people to be in the field and having conversations and giving therapy and giving counseling and giving different opportunities for them. Some of these gentlemen, unfortunately, being that St. John's is a wet shelter, meaning that these people can come in, full of drugs and full of alcohol, it means that they need help getting off of these things. It can't be just like, hey, get off of it. It's a process, and that costs money, and we need to be able to find ways to be able to give them that money to be able to do that. As far as when April 30th hits, I think it becomes, what can other nonprofits help us with? What can we do to be able to continue to help them? But it is a larger problem than just, unfortunately, St. John's and just Brown County.
Yeah, for me, growing up in Russia, I was borderline homeless, and thankfully the orphanage and my extended family were there to help me out. But yeah, I remember walking the streets and asking for food and asking for my neighbors to help me out. And to this day, I still have these conversations at Spring Lake Church at our downtown campus. And I'm so proud of our church and the faith-based communities in the area, because during COVID, we opened up the downtown Spring Lake campus to the homeless community. We have very generous donors who partner with St. John's from Spring Lake, and we are a partner of that ministry. So again, it's the government's role to do their part to help out with some of the mental health and some of these other challenges, such as the opioid crisis. But also, how can we partner with these faith organizations or nonprofits organizations? I serve on the Howe Community Resource Center board for 7 years, the Salvation Army board for 7 years. So it's, again, how can we partner with these groups, not have redundancy in services, but efficiencies, collaboration, not competition, but helping these people out. They are no worse or less than us. We are all equal, we are all the same, and the quality of life, such as a roof over your head, should be offered and provided. So I'm proud of the work Spring Lake Church is doing. I'm thankful for organizations such as the Howe Community Resource Center, St. John's, and the work you're doing there, Ross. That's wonderful. So let's keep these partnerships going and have the county do their part to support that.
Mix Eastman, yes.
Yeah, so I actually was homeless when I was 17. Like many LGBTQ youth, regardless if they come out or not, there is a lot of conflict that happens between parents and children when they go against the grain. And I was part of what we call invisible homelessness. What that means is that I wasn't on the street. It means that I was couch surfing. It means that I was seeing who could take me in what night. I finished high school that way. I graduated. I spoke at my graduation. I did all the things. I didn't miss a day of school. But it was so difficult to be able to do that for a lot of reasons. Part of it is the public transit system. Part of it is just the stress and the mental capacity there. So that's something to be aware of. I have direct experience with that. Homelessness in our area doesn't stop when it's warm outside. Homelessness in our area doesn't change when we don't freeze to death. Poverty is a policy choice. When we have people in poverty in our state, in our county, and in our city, it is a policy choice. We need to make those policy choices to reduce that poverty. And I do believe that housing is a human right and that we all should have access to it and that should be supported by government level services.
The problem with the homeless issue isn't just providing a shelter. It involves getting to the problems of mental health. It gets to the problem of alcohol and drug abuse. It gets to the problem of opportunities denied because of people not having proper skills and talents to get the job they need to get into an apartment or a home. It's multifaceted. There are a number of agencies working on the issue in Brown County. There's a Brown County Homeless Coalition. I've been to a couple of the meetings of that organization. One of the things that I really think we need to take a look at, and I've talked to a couple state legislatures about, is that maybe, just maybe, we need to tackle this particular issue on a regional basis. Homelessness does not stop at the Brown County border. There are people coming in from surrounding counties. In fact, we have evidence of law enforcement personnel bringing people from other counties, surrounding counties, and dropping them off in downtown Green Bay because we are a center providing services for the homeless. That is not right. The surrounding counties should either take care of their own homeless people or they should help solve the homeless issue on a regional basis.
For our next question, we will start with Mr. Kepke, and that is, in the city of Green Bay and other communities, there are a number of empty buildings that could be used or reshaped for business, yet we're seeing new strip businesses popping up throughout the county. How would you control this expansion sensibly?
While the county doesn't impact zoning and the developer agreements directly, to me, I want to follow a model of investment that we've seen in Hobart. It's a model that promotes the strong schools we have in our area. It promotes that Hobart Lawrence is the 9th safest community in the state, and it promotes the second highest net new construction growth because of the third lowest tax rate in Brown County. So again, it's not a direct impact of Brown County, but how can these buildings be used for various professional training to make sure we have strong professionals being trained to be those daycare professionals and helping out in those centers, or helping out the treatment facilities and providing space for those going through various challenges such as opioid crisis. So again, it's not a direct impact of the county, but I would promote things that help the tax base to grow, gives resources to the people who may need them, and also make sure it's done in a fiscally responsible manner. Hobart, it's a great model. It works because we say, let's get the government out of the way. Let's give the private sector and the people the ability to, what we're going to call revolutionize housing in Hobart. Stay tuned. Next few months, we're going to revolutionize housing in Brown County. So same thing here. These spaces, let's use them for a strong tax base, resource for the people, and revolutionize opportunities for all people in Brown County.
Yes, Ms. Eastman?
Yeah, so one of the struggles with some of these larger buildings, especially office buildings, as a lot of companies have returned or have gone to work from home, is that there are not enough plumbing facilities to turn them into dignified, adequate housing for grown adult people. People deserve their own space, and only having one restroom facility or 2 restroom facilities per floor is not actually enough to house people. And I would love to see community centers go into some of these spaces. I would love to see childcare go into some of those spaces. That is a much more one-to-one change to those particular facilities and those particular spaces. One of the things that I currently do is I work in construction doing remodels. So I work in the offices, I look at architectural plans, and there is so much that we can do to retrofit spaces to make them work for what we need. And there's just a few little pieces that are a little bit harder. So I really do believe that my experience in that industry can help in this particular area as we look at revamping those buildings.
Revamping buildings or creating new opportunities for office space or housing is not much of an issue that the county board would face. Development issues are pretty much controlled by local municipalities. I will say this in response to what Mr. Kepke just said, is that we need to have the city of Green Bay investing more in the development of some of these structures in our city, our central city, that are vacant right now. Every year the Wisconsin Department of Revenue comes out with an equalized value for every municipality and every county in the state of Wisconsin. Over this past year, the equalized value of new construction in almost every community in Brown County has been in the 15 to 20% range of increase, both new construction and the value of appreciated property. The city of Green Bay was 8%. 8%. So the city of Green Bay is lagging behind some of our adjoining communities. We need to have the city of Green Bay become more involved in not only developing new construction, but trying to get viable uses for some of the buildings that are not properly utilized in the first place.
I would agree with everything that everybody has said in this board. I feel like we're doing that a lot today. But the idea is, I live right near the United Healthcare building that is right on Shawano Avenue, right by 29. And I watched and listened to a lot of the different things that the Howard Village Board is going through to be able to figure out a way to revamp that. It started with an organization that said that they were going to be able to revamp it into a lot of different apartments, things like that. But Ms. Eastman is correct in saying they went through that building then for the second time and went, this is going to cost more money to do that than it is to just take it down and rebuild. And that is, I feel like that is okay as long as they're willing to pay for those things and we're willing to let them to do those things. And Howard is at the leading edge, I believe, of trying to be able to continue to revamp and redo things and get more people in and find perfect ways to be able to do the things that they need to do. Hobart is doing the same, right? I go across to Centennial Center, and I was just there last night, and I'm walking around the area, and I'm like, my God, there's houses upon houses, there's apartments upon apartments, there's new building or new industry coming in. It's an amazing thing, and I think Brown County can just be a part of that by saying, villages, keep going, keep pushing forward, pushing Green Bay to be better, pushing Hobart to be better, pushing Howard to be better, pushing Swamico, all of those different communities.
Our next question, we will start with Mix Eastman. Environmental protections are so critical to Brown County. What would your plan be to address the continued protection of the Fox River and the Bay?
Yeah, again, going back to the clean water, clean air, clean energy side of things, I really want to make sure that we are implementing green initiatives here. So when we are working with the Fox River, making sure that everything that we're doing is a net benefit to the environment, and that we're doing that. That means a full net benefit, including the energy that we use to put into those things. And I understand that sometimes it takes a little bit upfront in cost to be able to get us that green energy that we can use to then do those types of cleanup procedures. Those things are really important. Making sure that we do have clean water here in Brown County is important. So the pieces for me come down to making sure that we're using local labor, making sure that we are using green energy, and making sure that we are assessing the entire environment when we are going through those cleanup procedures and ensuring that we have a good water source for our future.
One of the groups I'm part of is a group that is supporting the development of the National Estuary Research Center here in the Bay of Green Bay. If we get that designation, which looks very positive, if we get the Visitor and Research Center, hopefully in Green Bay, that will go a long way toward helping do the research and having the information needed to make sure that we protect this national resource that we have, the Bay of Green Bay. I am also very concerned and have been working with the water and soil conservation people of Brown County to see what we can do to effectuate reductions in nutrients, particularly phosphorus, going into the Bay of Green Bay through the Fox River and through the East River. The soil and water conservation people have been working with local farmers to do a better job of handling manure and doing such things as crop rotations and minimal tillage or no tillage to cut down on the amount of sediment and nutrients going into the Fox River, the East River, and the Bay of Green Bay. So there are a number of initiatives out there that we're working on to make sure that we improve the swimmability and fishability of the Bay of Green Bay.
Yes, Mr. Tallner, yes.
You know, I put out in a lot of my brochures and all of the articles this idea that I'm not an expert in anything. And this is one of the areas that I can tell you that I've learned a lot through the campaign trail. I've learned a lot in the last year about the different ways that we can continue to make Brown County green and Brown County have a high conservative rating. I've gotten endorsements from Clean Wisconsin and Wisconsin Conservation. But what I've learned is the idea is to listen and listen to our expert people. I had an opportunity to take a tour of NEW Water, and they have it open to anyone. So if you call them, they'll try and find a time for you to be able to take a tour of it. And it's the facility that treats our water from wastewater to the water that's put in the bay, and the amount of work that they have to put into that and the amount of energy. But you know what they're doing that's amazing is they're adding to it and saying, we're going to do green energy on top of it. So we're starting to burn a lot of the gases that are coming out of that and making it into green energy and making it so that they power their own facility just with that. And so we want to be able to continue to bring in the best people. The NER project that is coming in the National Square Street Research Center, I get that name wrong every time, but that facility is going to be amazing, and just continuing to bring in people that are willing to learn and willing to be able to give us, as a Brown County Board, the best expert opinions.
Earlier, we were talking about healthcare and the importance of healthcare, and I believe that healthcare equals natural resource care. If we don't have clean water, clean air, it impacts our healthcare directly. April 20th at 10 a.m., we're meeting at G2's in Hobart for the first annual Earth Day cleanup that I'm excited to partner with the village on, so hope to see you there. But from there, whether it's the Fox River or the rest of our air and natural resource protection, we have to make sure we have development agreements that are responsible at the local level, and the county should support whether it's small developer fees to go towards natural resource care. Hobart has. We have nearly $400,000 in a fund from various developers who've developed in Hobart, who've paid into our sustainability fund, and we'll be announcing 6 new parks and green spaces over the next few months as well. So it's the tangible help from an Earth Day cleanup to, of course, listening and getting feedback from experts, as Ross said. That's a great call out, but also realizing that natural resource care is health care. So we can continue keeping the momentum going. That's going at the local level, at the county level, at the state level. I work at Schneider. We've purchased nearly 100 electric trucks. We're the leading trucking company with the most electric trucks. They're currently in California. So again, public-private partnerships, basic tangible help like Earth Day cleanup on April 20th in Hobart, and just realizing that we should be good stewards of the earth we've been given.
Thank you. The next question we will start with Mr. Thino, and that is, are county taxes too high, too low, just about right? And please state your rationale.
For the past 5 years, Brown County has been able to reduce the tax rate. And the other thing that we have been able to do is to reduce the county debt. We have the lowest debt that we've ever had in the past couple decades. We're doing a great job of maintaining the tax base that we have in Brown County. In fact, the Brown County tax base is growing. I would say that the tax rate of Green Bay is not excessive. Everybody seems to think that any taxes is excessive, but really in Brown County, our taxes are very, very reasonable. My opponent has indicated in a profile in one of the local newspapers that the main function of the County Board of Supervisors is to provide for social services, funding social services, but it's much broader than that. Brown County is a huge entity in this region with nearly a $400 million budget. We preside over the airport, the zoo, the museums, the libraries, parks and recreation, our court system, social services, the list goes on. But Brown County is a huge entity that provides many services to the people of Brown County. Our tax rate has been going down, and I'm very proud to say that I have supported fiscal responsibility as a member of the Board of Supervisors.
I like the 3 little pigs that we got going on. I'll go with the just right. The county tax that we have is something that we need to be able to continue to bring in. I talked about at the beginning, we're kind of at this point where we're not making a ton of extra money. It's not like the money that the board is bringing in is like going into the pockets of somebody else or going into a savings account. It is just breaking even. You can look at our budget or look at the budget of the Brown County Supervisors and see it breaks even every single year. They pay off some of the debt because if we pay off the debt, then we don't have to pay it off later on. And any good business person understands you pay off more debt, you can get some more money in the long run. And that allows for us to be able to lower than the amount of tax that we spend or send out to you. There's 32 different departments in Brown County that they control, anywhere from, like Mr. Thino said, from the museum to the airport to the Port of Green Bay to the golf course. There's over 1,700 employees, and we need every single one. There isn't one that is not important, and we need to be able to pay them, and we need to be able to pay them fair wages. We need to be able to continue to get them to be able to be the people that we need, and we need the experts that we can in the field to be able to do the best things that they can.
I would say the Brown County tax rate is reasonable, so just right. The Brown County taxes per $1,000 of assessed value at $3.86. $3.04. Hobart taxes at $3.86. So county's tax rate is 82 cents lower than Hobart. I serve in the Hobart's Tax Assessment Review Committee, and individuals say Brown County and the local taxes are reasonable, but we have to keep in mind whether there's a school referendum tax or another local tax increase that are not in control of the county. So you may see, like the north end of Hobart saw a big spike in taxes. Well, Village, we froze the taxes, but the Pulaski School referendum passed. So we saw tax increases between $500 and $5,000. So I had to explain that there's the school, the local, the county, state, and federal levels of taxes we have to keep in mind. So for me, I am a fiscal conservative. I want to make sure we have a fiscally responsible budget. I think the sales tax has been very helpful in paying off debt and reducing costs to the taxpayers in Brown County, and I applaud the county executive and the county board for doing that. But we have a great opportunity. The United Nations has a $500 million budget for 17,000 people, and that budget is larger by $120 million than the whole counties. They do have a $500,000 service agreement, but when you have nearly 220,000 more people and a budget that's over 120 million more for the people there, I think we can renegotiate that service agreement and make sure the United Nations pays in more and gives more resources to Brown County.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to have an unpopular opinion here. I do think that we could raise taxes by about $1 to $2, and if we did that, we would be able to pay our county employees a livable wage. There are several county employees that are not actually being paid a livable wage. We are not breaking even if we are not paying our employees a livable wage. In my district, which is one of the more, one of the cheaper districts to live in, as far as rent and housing costs go, a livable wage, including being able to use your employer's health care and all these other things, is between $50,000 and $60,000 a year. We do have employees that are below that, and those employees deserve to have a livable wage. And right now, with the budget being where it's at, we don't have the ability to do that unless we raise the taxes just a little bit. We have a turnover problem with employees, and if we can reduce that turnover by increasing wages, we're going to give higher quality services across the board, because I do include things like the library and parks as social services, and we can make sure that all of our employees are making a livable wage. I am happy to chip in a couple extra dollars if it means that my neighbors and that the people that are running those county services are able to eat what they need to eat, you know?
Thank you. The next question, we will start with Mr. Tallner, and that is, Brown County does the tax bills for all municipalities in Brown County, and there is not transparency in the bill regarding education, and that is private school voucher payments are hidden on that line. Would you support tax bill transparency by showing what private school vouchers entail?
Yes. No, I'm a public school teacher. I believe in what a private school can do for people. I believe that public school isn't for every single person. There's opportunity in a private school to be able to do some great things. But I believe in that a public school has to show more transparency than ever. I sit in a lot of the school board meetings that they have to do, and I see a lot of the school report cards that many of you can see, and the amount of transparency that a public school has to give out is extremely high. So it includes on a tax bill, it includes in your local government. For a private school, they should have to do the exact same. They need to be able to show what they can do and how they're improving people and how they're making our communities better. So that means not only just by what they do in their classrooms, but also how they're spending their money.
In any government, transparency is very important. I would be in favor of a line item breakdown of the costs that the taxpayers are paying, regardless of what the taxes from the individuals are going towards. They support both roads, infrastructure, could be schools, it's for the school portion. But again, we have to remember different levels, the local, the school, the county. So when it comes to transparency, yes, I would push back on the term that Brown County collects them, the property taxes. They actually have deferred the collecting to the local municipalities, which Hobart is very happy in doing because of the interest we're able to generate by holding on to the collected property taxes. So yes, Brown County should be transparent as Hobart is transparent on our tax bills. When it comes to the great institutions in District 24, I'm proud of Providence Academy and the education that school provides. Because bottom line, the terms like vouchers and all of these other things, they should be irrelevant. If we have transparency, and the transparency is taxpayer dollar from a school with parents and kids of a public school, a private school, homeschooled, right? They're all paying into it. I was homeschooled. I have 10 siblings. My parents adopted 7 of them. And my parents paid into the school taxes in public and private every year. So that was pretty transparent. So continued transparency would be good. But I think schools owe it to the taxpayers to give us more transparency on Fund 80. Google Fund 80 and how Fund 80 allows schools to exceed their revenue limit. And that is one area we got to look at more. Fund 80 should be just as transparent as your tax bill.
Okay, yes.
So I am somebody that did attend private school briefly in my childhood. I'm also somebody that finished my middle school and high school in public school. The reason why my parents did their best to have us attend private school was because they wanted the ability to indoctrinate us from a small age. Private schools have the ability to discriminate based on your particular flavor of their religion, or based on your gender, or based on your sexuality. Public funds should not be going to any entity that is allowed to discriminate. So that's where I stand on public vouchers. I do think that we need a line, because I do think that people need to be aware that they are funding schools that are that they have the voucher system in place, and that they have the ability for those public funds to go to those schools where discrimination can happen. So yes, I am in favor of that line item being there. And I think it's really important that we really take a look at that. The difference in education that people are seeing from private schools versus public schools can almost entirely be explained away with economic differences. What we see in our public schools and the economic challenges and how that impacts our students versus how little of that has to impact the students that are able to afford private schools.
Whether you support vouchers or you oppose vouchers, the issue is the source of revenues for vouchers. Most people think that the voucher program that was adopted by the legislature, that the money comes from the state. It doesn't. It comes from the local school district. And that is something I have a great deal of difficulty with. In the Green Bay School District, the cost for this year for vouchers is over $10 million. That's $10 million that's not going into education in the public schools of Green Bay. To me, that's wrong. The state legislature, if it's in love with vouchers, should cough up the money for vouchers. It should not come out of the pocketbooks of local taxpayers. And the problem with the voucher system, the way it's run right now, is that when you take money out of the public school system to pay for vouchers, you not only are losing potential dollars for educating students, and we have issues in all of our schools, and we all know what's happening in the news right now with closing schools. But the other alternative is for the public schools to increase property taxes so that what we end up with is property taxpayers actually paying for two school systems, one private and one public. Again, if the legislature thinks it's such a great idea, let the legislature cough up the money.
Thank you. This will be our last question, and we'll start with Mr. Kepke. And that is, what do we need to do to bridge the political divides that plague our governments?
Absolutely. I think we can take the last topic and not get divided over topics such as vouchers. It's just a word that we use. Bottom line, the government doesn't have any money. Every single dollar and cent comes from you, the taxpayers, you, the people. It's a government of the people, for the people, by the people. So how do we bridge these divides? We begin by meeting in person, listening, and having conversations. I've hosted over 20 listening sessions in the village of Hobart. Some I've had one person, some I've had almost 30. Just depends on the day. But in there, it's about respectful conversations. It's about listening to the various opinions and talking through difficult terms, whether it's tax policy, whether it's Fund 80, whether it's some of these other topics, but doing it in person. There's way too many keyboard warriors going on. Us as adults should be setting an example to our kids to not online bully. Way too many online bullies out there. I'm 31, I can take it. But if that's the example we're setting somebody who's 14, 15 watching these feeds, that's not the way to do it. Let's meet face to face. Let's talk. I plan on having many more listening sessions, both in Hobart and Howard, if elected for the county board. But in the village of Hobart, we'll continue to have those respectful conversations. I've started a Hobart, Wisconsin Community Connect page, over 1,600 people and businesses on it. So we are able to discuss things in a respectful manner online, but then take those small fragments online and talk in person in those listening sessions. Let's get back to respect. Let's stop the bullying. Let's humanize one another again.
Yes.
For me, I strongly believe in the phrase, no permanent friends, no permanent enemies. I am happy to work with anybody that wants to get done what I want to get done. I do not care what side of the aisle you come from, as long as you can engage respectfully with me, and yes, that does mean using my pronouns. As long as you can engage respectfully with me in that conversation, I am 100% happy to work with anybody. The county board has a lot of seats. We have to work together regardless of what side of the aisle we come from. It is a nonpartisan position, and we need to treat it that way. That also means that people that I've worked with in the past, it doesn't mean I'm always going to be on your side. I really believe that we have to, stay with our morals and keep our compass straight. I also have hosted things called Ask Me Anythings. I go online and I go live on my Facebook page and I allow any member of the public to ask me any question that they want. Happy to have those conversations. I also have my phone and my email available to anybody that needs it. I'm always happy to listen to things. I am committing to being able to respond before whatever the next meeting is for the county board if I get elected, because it is important that people don't just scream into the void, right? We need to hear from our elected officials. So that is something that I am largely committed to, and that's part of breaking that barrier down.
One of the biggest causes of polarization in our political process is gerrymandering. We've all heard about it in the news. Thank goodness we're moving away from having gerrymandered districts in Wisconsin. The problem for the past over 2 decades, or nearly 2 decades, has been that gerrymandered Republican districts tend to elect very conservative Republicans. Gerrymandered Democrat districts tend to elect very liberal Democrat candidates in those districts. Well, when those very conservative Republicans and those very conservative and very liberal Democrats get together in Madison, they have nothing in common. We have a polarization of the political process that is not beneficial to the advancement of democracy. We have one-party rule, or at least we had one-party rule, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to have competitive districts in Wisconsin as a result of the recent agreement between the governor and the legislature on this particular issue. But polarization has caused a great deal of harm to our body politic in pushing people either liberal or conservative. We need to be back in the center. One of the problems that I see locally is that I do not like the idea of either the Republican or Democratic parties locally getting involved in these local nonpartisan races. Nonpartisan races should be nonpartisan, and the local political parties should stay away.
Mr. Tolner?
What Mr. Thino kind of ended with, I wanted to start with. So I agree. I wish that the local parties that we have here, and Republicans and Democrats, would try not to be as involved. The amount of phone calls that I get from the local Democrats or the local Republicans you pick, trying to give me money, trying to do things, is just unfortunate. And I always have to find creative ways to have conversations and not be like, just stop it, you know, like, so that's a hard part of it. I will say I went to, like I said, a year of Brown County board meetings, and I watch, I don't get to just watch what they're doing, but I also get to watch the way they interact. And Mr. Thino is a part of that board, and I watch everybody else, and they're all pretty cordial to each other most of the time. I mean, there's times where people really want a certain thing, and they get very passionate about it, but I've talked to enough of them afterwards to hear them say, well, now we're going to go to a local establishment and have some fun and actually have better conversation. And I think that's really important, is to, even though we may be in an argument on a board, we're still able to have that conversation. I mean, myself and Vanya have had coffee together. We talked to each other on a local Facebook page. We just both kind of showed our respect to each other. It doesn't have to be as divisive as it is. It doesn't have to be me versus him. It can be who's going to help the better person, or who's going to be the better person to help the community, and who's going to be able to run it better. So I believe in that overall organization of it.
Thank you very much, and this ends the question and answer portion of our forum. So we'll begin with our 2-minute closing statements, and we will start with Mr. Kepke and work our way to the right.
Well, again, thank you to the League of Women's Voters for hosting us today. Again, if you had told me 21 years ago I'd be in the United States of America, here in Green Bay, running to represent thousands of people, I wouldn't have believed you. But because of what my parents did for me in adopting me, giving me a great family, a great homeschooled education, raising me with my Christian and conservative values, but they've also taught me how to reach bipartisan and common sense solutions. And that's what I've done over the last 21 years. I've taken that record of my core values and brought them to make sure we have solutions that work for everybody. Everybody inherently has their own leanings, and that's okay. And that's what makes us better. That's what I love about my family. That's my grandma, who's fostered over 30 kids, or my parents, who've adopted 7 of their 11 kids. We're of different races, different backgrounds. English is my second language. But we've come to learn to care for each other, love one another, and put humanity first. So for me, this seat, it's not about politics. It's about humanity. It's about how we can help one another out. And I am proud of who I am to my core. But it doesn't mean I need to put down people who may have a different opinion. I have to look for those bipartisan and common sense solutions that work for everybody. So I look forward to working with the residents of Brown County, of Hobart, of Howard, to address the opioid crisis, to work on improving our roads and infrastructure, to make sure we have a responsible budget and we treat a taxpayer fairly, and make sure we improve the housing availability for all here in Brown County. In all, I think District 24 will be in great hands because, as Ross said, we've met for coffee, we've talked, and whatever the voters decide on April 2nd, I will stand with. Ross is a great guy. Appreciate his respect, appreciate the work he's been doing, and District 24, you'll be in great hands regardless.
I'll agree. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for holding this. It's one of my favorite things is to be able to talk to a large group of people. I'm a teacher. 24, 25 people is awesome. I was a theater director for a long time, so theaters full of people are just kind of my atmosphere to be in. So I really enjoy it. And as Vanya talked about, I think the respect that he and I have had is something to just write home about, is something to be able to say about our local politics, is it doesn't have to be this back and forth argument. It doesn't have to be something that goes online and people argue about it. No matter the views of the two of us, we're trying to do what's best for District 24. As I continue to look at it, I have two small kids, as I said, and I'm trying to do what's best for them for their future. I grew up here. I don't plan on leaving Brown County. I plan on being in Howard the rest of my life. I plan on being a teacher at Bayport the rest of my life. So I want to be able to continue to make it better. And I think we have a great base in what has happened with the 26 supervisors that we have. And I look forward to being a part of that team if I can, just like being able to work for my constituents in all of Brown County. And I'll talk about it again, the idea of being able to help with taxes and being able to spend every dollar that we have and be able to make it so that it works the best that it can, especially in the mental health field, and being able to work through and talk about how we can be able to help with mental health, to be able to stop a lot of the other smaller areas or larger areas, I guess, that there are that we can be able to slow down, including being able to lower the amount of people in jail, being able to lower the amount of drug addiction and alcohol abuse and violent abuses and criminal acts that are going on in our county. And then finally, just that better future. I look forward to being able to do things with our green environment and being able to work with a lot of different people on trying to find better ways to be able to do the things that we do.
Well, again, thank you to the League of Women Voters. This has been a pleasure to be here and share this audience participation program. I commend my opponent for being a candidate. It's not easy being a candidate for public office. It's very difficult for those of us who are concerned about local government, even recruiting people to run for local office. So my compliments to Gloria for that. I'm very proud of the 2 years I've spent on the county board. If you go out on Main Street, you're going to find a new east branch of the Brown County Library System. It's a beautiful facility that I strongly supported in my position on the county board. We're going to have a new boat launch and a new park on the east side of Green Bay. I take my job as county supervisor very, very seriously. I spend afternoons often meeting with department heads and sub-department heads to learn what the issues and concerns are of people that are on the front lines. I study the issues to make sure that county government is operating as effectively and efficiently as possible. I'm very proud of Brown County. It's a great place to live. We have great municipalities. We have a very, very outstanding county government. And the one thing I do like about serving on the County Board of Supervisors is that everybody tries to get along. We have liberals, we have conservatives, we have people in the center. But at the end of the day, we really try to work together to do what is right for the people of Brown County and advance this county as a great place to live and work.
Yeah, like everybody else said, thank you so much to the League of Women Voters for giving us a place to speak to voters. I think that an informed voter is the best thing that we can have. Democracy is so important, and I believe so deeply in democracy. I really do believe in a more equitable future for all Brown County. I really do believe that when we all do better, we all do better. I really believe that we have a future if we work together. And I believe that we have a future if we do things to invest in it. I believe in equity. I believe in access. I believe in accessibility. I believe that social services are critical. And that includes things like the county library, and that includes things like our county parks. I do believe that a greener future is the only future that we have here in Wisconsin and in our world. I think that over the summer when we had our problems with air quality, just like the rest of the country. I think we all felt that in a very real way. And I really do believe that renters' voices need to be heard. I am running for Brown County Board of Supervisors because District 5 looks like me. I am District 5. The people that live there have very similar experiences to me. I can point to a time in the last 12 months where I couldn't afford a gallon of milk. And a lot of people in my district are in the same boat, even though we work really hard. And I believe that the government should be run by the people and for the people. And that means the working class people. That means people should be able to govern for themselves. So that is why I'm running, and that is one of the things I really want to leave you with today. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to close this forum by thanking our candidates, Vina Kepke and Ross Tollner in District 24, and Dan Thino and Gloria Jane Eastman in District 5, for their participation in our democratic process by sharing their positions and perspectives with us. And to our audience, thank you for attending the forum and for submitting your questions. I'd like to extend an appreciation to League Vice President Don Smith for coordinating this forum, and our timekeepers were Don and Jean Dahlstrom, League members. As a reminder, the recording of this forum is available on the League of Women Voters Greater Green Bay Facebook page. Please remember to vote by absentee or in person at the polls on Tuesday, April 2nd. This ends the Brown County Board Forum, brought to you by the League of Women Voters of Greater Green Bay. Have a good afternoon and safe travels home.